Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Between the Walls podcast. We are your hosts. My name's Jess.
And I'm Jonathan, and we are the Wallaces.
Yeah, I'm so tired.
Why are you so tired?
Okay.
You slept a full night and then took like a 3-hour nap.
I know. I've been so tired all week. We just got back. Well, not really. We got back. Okay. Today's Saturday. We got back from California on Tuesday.
Yes.
We went to Port St. Lucie, which is an hour and a half away. Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, I was home, but I was working. We had a birthday party last night. Today, I did sleep all day. We have a party tonight again. I just feel like we haven't had a chance to just really catch ourselves since we've been back from LA.
That's fair.
And my time of the month is around the corner, so I'm naturally just going to be more exhausted.
And you haven't been taking your vitamins.
And I have not been taking my vitamins, so
Which is the most important part of all of this.
Yeah, I'm just tired, man. Your girl is I'm sleepy. You guys, I took like a 30-minute nap today, and I had the weirdest dream. I don't know. It's still bothering me, because why were you wearing a dress? I didn't like that.
Apparently, I was wearing a dress.
He was wearing a white wedding dress.
And I got drawn into a cult in this dream.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. I can thank my brother for that story because, he'll probably tell you guys on their podcast, which also, the reason why we were in Port St. Lucie is because we have such a special treat for you guys. I can't wait till these podcast episodes come out. We recorded a joint podcast with my brother and his wife.
At the home of the Harveys?
Yeah, their podcast is going to drop the end of July.
Yeah.
So when our last episode goes up, their first episode goes up. So you won't be missing us too much because you'll have a piece of me over there. So you guys watch their podcast. It's called Home at the Harveys.
At Home with the Harveys.
That's their podcast. And they just have so much to offer and so much to give. Like, our episode is going to be so special.
It's going to be the recording, we might edit it down a little bit, but it was an hour and 30 plus minutes.
Yeah, it was over an hour and a half because we were really just chopping it up and we were going all the way in.
Not just ankle deep, waist deep, all the way in.
We were going all the way in. So that was fun, but I'm tired.
Don't be tired.
I am.
Oh, that was terrible.
Sorry.
I don't know if you could see that Jess is wearing white and yellow pants. And
I'm wearing pajama pants and this sweatshirt that I actually bought this for Jonathan, actually.
Could you guys imagine me wearing that?
The thing is, we were somewhere and Jonathan pointed out the sweatshirt and he's like, oh, I like that. But I didn't know he meant he liked it for me.
Her.
He didn't end his sentence. So he said, oh, I like that. So me being the good girlfriend that I was at the time, this was 3.5 years ago, I was like, I'm going to buy it for him. So I found it online. I bought it for him. And I'm like, I got you something. He opens it and I always know when Jonathan doesn't like something, which actually reminds me, we have something in the car that we need to return. Anyways, what are we talking about today?
Well, you tell us what we're talking about, life.
So I saw some comments, because I like to read the comments, and they were all, you guys have been really supportive lately. But I did see in our last episode we were talking about sex, but we were actually mostly talking about dating. We were supposed to talk about sex, but it turned into something else. But I also saw a comment that said, it was left an hour ago, and they were like, when I first saw the title, I was like, oh my gosh, another podcast about sex. But this was actually a very, very good conversation. So
well, that's nice.
That's nice. But someone said, okay, what about sex for the married folks? We were talking about in dating, how to avoid sex and what happens if you do have sex and blah, blah. But people want to know, okay, now we're allowed to have sex. What's tea? So I'm going to give you a little bit of tea. I'm giving you the 2 years tea that I got. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about sex in marriage. And obviously, I always want to say we've only been married for 2 years. Our opinions on sex and marriage are going to change at 10 years and 20 and 30. But this is what we have right now.
Yeah, and it's the perspective of people who had sex before marriage, what it means, sex in marriage. Which I think a lot of people, I think that's a perspective that you don't really get that much, being in church. And I'm not glorifying the fact that we had sex before marriage, but it's actually gonna horrify it a little bit.
Horrify it,
instead of glorify it.
Oh, horrify, scary.
Scare, the reasons how it can negatively impact the marriage. I feel like usually when people talk after people are married in the church, they usually only talk about sex as either I didn't do it, or they just don't mention it. Mention anything before marriage at all. Mm-hmm. And I think when you walk outside of God's plan, as we did, there are negative consequences that come with that
Yeah.
when you bring that into your marriage.
Mm-hmm. I just want to clarify really quick because we've never really talked about like in depth about like that we did have sex before marriage.
I feel like it was very clear in the last video, but some people didn't get that.
Yeah. That's not what I was going to say, but you can say what you're going to say.
No, I mean, I'm not. It was a. We. And I don't know.
Okay, I'll just go on what I was going to say.
Yeah, go what you were to say. You made me feel nervous.
I don't know. I'm like, wow. Anyways, we did have sex before we got married, but we weren't practicing sex. It wasn't like just a thing that we were doing. Like we were constantly trying not to. I feel like we can count on like on one hand, maybe a hand and a half, how many times we had sex while we were dating.
Yeah.
And we dated for almost 2 years before over 2 years before we got married. So it was definitely extremely far apart. But I would always say we were practicing abstinence, but we weren't perfect. That's what I would always say. So now that we're actually saying, yes, we did have sex before marriage. We said it in the last podcast and somebody was like, you said you were like, you did not have sex. Like I never said that. We were just trying our best not to, but we slipped up a few times. Not that often, but a few times.
No, but I think us making those decisions at that time, regardless of whatever our intentions were, they had consequences for us coming in to marriage. And not even just that, but my history, with my history with porn before marriage, and wrestling with all of that coming into as well. So I just think negative sexual history can impact you after you cross that threshold.
Yeah,
into marriage.
I agree. And wait, quick funny story. Maybe it's not that funny. Anyway, I remember my mom's 60th birthday dinner. We like rented an Airbnb. We had my whole family, like immediate family, like both my brothers, their wives, their children. I was there. My husband was there. We're having a great conversation. You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, that's where
we're having a great conversation. We're laughing. We're having fun together. And like all of a sudden, my dad's like, "All right, so which one of you guys had sex before you got married?" We're like, "What's happening?" Both my brothers were like, I'm not answering that. We're not doing that. And I'm just like, I don't really know where to go from here. And like none of us answered. And my dad was just like, all right, well.
That's the answer.
That's the answer. My dad's so funny. He actually caught me on something else this weekend, but that's something we're going to talk about long time from now because there's no need for that. Anyhow, shout out to my daddy. I love him. So let's get into it.
Sex
for the married folk.
Yeah, start us off. This is your idea.
All right, so I wrote some things down. So I'm going to look at my phone every now and then, but I know what I started off with. A lot of people want to know when you did wait for so long. And like I said, we stumbled every now and then. But the married sex, like the first time that we had sex after we got married, like the honeymoon night, it was still extremely nerve-wracking. But I feel like we both had different reasonings for why. And I don't know if we want to talk about that just yet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. We probably don't want to talk about that just yet. But like the night, it was still scary. I'm like, oh no. Like, this is like it. And I'm like, what is it going to feel like to like have sex with no like shame attached after? And like, we're allowed to do this now. And I remember like Jonathan was like, I think he took a shower first. I took a shower second because I wanted to like put something on, which I don't know if this is every guy, but my husband does not care about the
lingerie. I just don't get it.
Like, take that off. Like, what is this?
I don't get it. The material doesn't look comfortable. No one look. I don't know.
Why are you worried about what I'm wearing? Like, this doesn't look good on you. I don't like it.
It looks itchy. I don't know.
Okay, let's take it off. Anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm like putting on my little thing in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm about to go out there and like intentionally seduce him. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling.
Yeah, I 100% get what you're getting at, because at any time that, like, any sexual experience before that was like illicit. Like, it felt wrong. It felt like I wasn't supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
And even as things were going on, there's still like the push, because especially with two people that are trying to live like God wants to, it's not like not unwilling, but it's like there's that back and forth with like, no, we should stop, no, we should keep going, that kind of thing at play. So this was the first time we're doing things in the correct way of things, where it's like, wait, there's no push or pull, like it's like it's just go.
Just go forward.
It was just like it was weird. It was very weird.
It was kind of weird. Like, not that it wasn't like great or whatever, but it was kind of weird. And I don't think anyone really prepares you for that, because like we said, it's always don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, and then after the Saturday night or whatever day you decide to have your wedding, now it's have sex with your husband every night, don't leave him hungry, or blah blah blah. And it's like, oh my God, nobody really prepares you for what you're really stepping into. I actually cried the night, like right when we were finished. I'm so sorry for doing that to you, because you're like, wait, what's wrong? I don't even fully know why I was crying. It was a lot. It was like emotionally a lot. I started crying. I'm like, it was like a compilation of so many things. Like, wow, we're really at this point, and like we just got married. That in itself is extremely overwhelming. And I'm like, now we're doing this thing, and I'm like, and it was great, and like we get to do this forever, and like other things that we prayed for came to pass like that night. And I'm like, this is a lot, extremely overwhelming. We actually had a lot of people tell us that there was no chance we were going to have sex on our wedding night because we were going to be so exhausted. I was like, I don't know about you, babe, but I'm a night owl. I'm up, okay? So I don't know. What were your thoughts going into?
Well, the thoughts going in were pretty much the same. Of just like, wow, this is crazy that we can do this, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Thoughts after though, I feel like with such like that negative history, you know, before, and anytime that I had stumbled into anything sexual before, even when I had a porn habit or addiction before, I'd always feel terrible. Like I feel awful after anything. And I expected that, okay, I'm doing this the right way now. Like there'll be no negative feelings at all after I finish. And after we had sex, after we had sex with the first time married, I expected to just feel like, okay, like clean slate, like, oh, feel 100% great. And obviously I felt great. But there was that still tinge of like, is this okay? Like, okay? Because I had painted sex so negatively in my mind before, like it was associated with so many bad feelings. It took like a few weeks before it was associated with no bad feelings, before it was associated just good.
Yeah, because it's not like an immediate switch. It literally, one night it's wrong, the very next night this is everything, do it. And it's like, there is no like or what's the word I'm looking for? Like easing on into it. It's like, oh, just, excuse me, start off with kissing, and then the next week touching, and then maybe months in you insert, but it's just like, boom, it's like right away. And it can be a lot. And I can't imagine what it's like for someone who actually saves themselves their whole lives up until marriage.
Think about how beautiful, like we talked about that last pod, but how beautiful it is when you do get to save yourself, because you have no negative connotation of anything before.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like as soon as you cross that, it's like there's no negative feelings associated with it, because this is the moment you've been waiting for.
I'm about to ruin this. I am about to, because like it is overall, it's a beautiful thing. Like the sentiment, the thought, like, oh, you're the only one who's seen me, I'm the only one who's seen you, it's our first time. But sex, the very first time you ever have sex, it's not beautiful. It's very ugly. True. It hurts. We don't know what we're doing, and if no one's ever seen your body, it's like if you remain 100% pure up until your marriage, it has to be nerve-wracking. It's like no one's ever seen my boobs, or like it's not like, oh, this is so beautiful, there's music playing. It's like, oh, you probably go into the bed like this, and it's like, make sure the lights are off, and he's going in like, oh, does it hurt? And it's like, oh, this is weird. Like, why are you touching me? It's weird.
The thing about it
not that it's not beautiful, save yourself, but like,
but the thing about it is like you're probably in a perfect scenario when both people have saved themselves, you're discovering all these things together. Yeah. You know, with someone that you fully, wholly, 100% wholeheartedly trust. Yeah. So while things might be awkward, like things were awkward, things were a little awkward.
And they're still awkward.
Even though it may be awkward, you're getting to do it together with someone that
that is obviously beautiful.
That's like that's the inherent beauty. That's the inherent beauty of it. And even if one person has it, one person hasn't, you know, it's still beautiful. And even with us, where we made mistakes, it's still beautiful.
It's just beautiful.
It's just different.
Different levels of beauty for sex in marriage.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember my mom telling me, because my mom saved herself until marriage. Even though, like, I definitely commend her, but I'm like, oh, you got married at 20, dog, whatever. But I commend her because still up until 20 is very hard because I still wouldn't have made it. But anyways, she told me, she was like, your dad was in the shower and I wanted to fake sleep because I just did not want to. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was nervous. Like, this man's about to touch me. It's like, I can imagine how just nerve-wracking that is. But I just, like, I still wish that I don't think I know anyone. That's not true. But for myself, I wish that I would have done it differently and saved myself for marriage. But that's very much water under the bridge now. But
thank God for the grace.
Yes, thank God for his grace.
Yeah, and his grace has definitely blessed us into our marriage, even though we did not go like through his order and his
He blessed
steps.
our efforts.
No, he blessed our
Yeah, we
efforts,
tried for
and
him.
like his grace is just so good.
Yeah.
And like it extending to us that we've gotten to this point of 2 years in marriage, and I feel like now we're more blessed in sex than we'd probably ever been.
Yeah, they do say that sex gets better over time.
I 100%
Yeah.
agree. But one thing that I wasn't prepared for, and the difference between sexual things during dating and sexual things during marriage, is the desire for it changed.
Yeah.
As well. I don't know if you want to tee that one off.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about that. And I don't know. I want to speak to actually a few more married women to see if it's just like us or like if this happens to a lot of, I want to say Christians, because I feel like a part of it is the fact that we're not supposed to be doing it that makes it like a little, the desire feels different. It's like a different type of desire. Like when we were dating and we were trying to abstain, I wanted it much more all the time. But I think it had to do with the fact that we weren't supposed to be doing it. It's like a bit of like danger or lust or like, it was a different type of desire. And sometimes I was telling Jonathan, like, I feel like I'm upset with God because why is it, these are my irrational thoughts, don't go with me on this, but why is it that when I get married, my desire changes and like it doesn't feel as hot, like my insides aren't jumping and screaming the way they were before. I'm like, does it have something to do with the fact that we weren't supposed to be doing it, so it seems so much more enticing, you know?
Yeah. When we were dating, I thought I had a high sex drive. I'm like, man, when I get married, I'm just gonna want it all the time. Yeah, I'm just gonna want it all the time from the moment I wake up, because that's how it felt.
Yeah.
That's how it felt during dating. That's how it felt feeling single.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that thing inside of you that like that hunger. It's like, oh, I can't wait to get married because now I'm gonna be able to get all that.
All of our friends say that, bro, I can't wait to get married because blah blah. And I don't want to like. I try not to be like just wait because it's not a just wait thing.
It's not a just wait thing. But what I thought was my sex drive was really my sin drive. Mm-hmm. So if I'm breaking it down to like a food analogy, sex before being married kind of felt like being on a diet and that sweet that you're craving. Like for me, like I love donuts, like that Krispy Kreme donut or whatever donut that you're like, man, I really want that thing. I know I shouldn't have it, but like I really want it. Mm-hmm. And that once you partake in it while it's happening, it's like, oh, this is the greatest donut ever. Yeah. But immediately after you finish, it's like, what on earth did I just do? Like I just cratered my diet.
Yeah.
And it's like the same like parallel with Eve in the Bible. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the fruit was beautiful to her eye.
Right.
And like
one thing she couldn't have.
The one thing she couldn't, and it was just looked so pleasant. It just looked so beautiful, and it's like I just, you know, it felt like the Little Mermaid.
What did she want?
She wanted to Wonderland. It's like I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty.
She's like, I want more. She has everything. Yeah, I still want more.
Yeah, like God's like blessed us with all these things that we can do, but like it's just the one thing I want that I can't.
Need it. I gotta have it.
And the moment I had it, I always felt awful. I went to poop. Yeah. I always wanted to like. It just felt awful.
Yeah.
But sex within marriage kind of feels more like a natural hunger and then eating a meal and feeling really satisfied afterwards. Yeah. So it's like after I eat that meal, I'm like, oh man, that was so good. Like good. I feel good, like a home cooked meal. But you don't crave that home cooked meal the same way that you crave like
that crumble cookie.
Man,
that crumble cookie.
So, but us being unprepared for that, it kind of felt, especially within the first year of marriage, I don't feel that way as much now. But within the first year of marriage really being like, dang, like I thought it was gonna be a little different than this. I thought it was gonna be that same thrill, of doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. But it's like, man, my sex drive isn't as high as I thought it was.
Right. Yeah. So for me, the things that like get me going, like Jonathan knows, maybe this might be a little TMI. I don't know how deep we're going, but like for me, like, okay, cool. We're going to do the sex thing, but I'm like, let's maybe do it somewhere that we probably shouldn't do it. Like your mom's house or something like,
hey, yo,
like not like outside or like at the movie theater, but like to add a little bit of excitement. I'm like, hey, bruh, I'm at my brother's house. I'm like, the kids sleep, my brother sleep. Like, we might get caught. Like, this is exciting again. But I don't want people to think, oh, once you get sex or once you get married, sex is just like, oh, sex again, or like it's boring, or like it's not exciting or fulfilling. It still is. And this is the problem of why you should not have sex before you get married, because now we're comparing it to a different feeling that we were never supposed to have in the first place, that God didn't intend us to have in the first place. And now we're comparing it to that. So, yeah. So that was like, I guess in a way a consequence of our actions.
It's 100% a consequence of our actions.
So it's unfortunate, but sex is still, I don't want to turn anyone off to sex in marriage because it's still beautiful and we still be getting it on. So we can do it right after this podcast. Do we have time?
I'll make time. I don't need that. I don't need that much time. But yeah, the thrill of it is what you become addicted to when someone becomes, I think, at least what I think, when someone becomes a sex addict, where it's why it's that the act itself no longer is enough.
Right.
And the more you feed that illicit side of it, I feel like it only goes further and further and further.
Because it starts to get dull after a while. It's like, all right, the thrill of like cheating on your spouse with one woman is like, all right, that was exciting. Now it's boring. Like, let's add twosomes, or what is it called? Threesomes, or like let's start smacking them in, No,
like it just like
it grows.
The level of nastiness, of freakiness that you need to get to in order to get that same feeling will always get higher and higher and higher. That's one of the reasons why I think it's so dangerous for people, that men or women, that watch porn during marriage. Well, even in general, before marriage too. Yeah. The danger of porn is that you are seeing things that aren't real. They're just they're not real. They're unrealistic, and they're actors.
And they're not real. Yeah.
Like they're literally actors and actresses.
Yeah.
And if that's what's in your mind and those are the things you're playing in your head, regular sex will never be enough, because your brain is now imagining things that aren't real. And what's real can't compare to the imaginary, because your brain can make up anything,
whatever it wants to.
Especially those people that are reading those like It Ends With Us, Starts With Us books.
I only got 40 pages in. I don't know how bad it gets.
I just heard from what I've heard, like those romantic fantasies.
He pushed me against the wall and his sweat dripped down or whatever.
Now your mind is and I'm not. If anyone reads those books and they're like, it's not that deep, or there's other stuff that happens. I mean, I've watched Game of Thrones, so like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not one to
we all have our things.
I'm not one to cast anything on anyone. Yeah. All I'm saying is that the things we put in our brain and the images that they start to create can spin out of control faster than you realize that they're spinning out of control. One thing I think is that a mindset that I had that was detriment. I didn't fully have it, but it was a part of me, part of my mind. I think a lot of men are the same. It's that like, oh yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of this stuff now, a lot of this stuff with girls now. But when I get married, or when I get into a relationship, I'll just turn it all off.
Yeah, I know.
The things that you're practicing when you're single, especially in terms of your relationship with the opposite sex, and your relationship with sex, your relationship with pornography, or anything like that, is just gonna follow you into your marriage,
and possibly intensify.
Because I had the belief for a long part of my dating and just like single journey, that the desire that I had for porn, or the desire that I had for sex, that a lot of those things would go away once I can have sex when I can have sex with my wife. Like the desire is going to be filled. I'm not going to even have to worry about it. And I think that mindset can get you in a whole lot of trouble because the desires to pull you away from your wife, the desires to pull you away from your significant other only intensify the deeper your connection, and the more illicit it would make it to step out of it.
Yeah.
Which means those habits and things, you need to start working to fix them now.
Well,
yeah.
Depending on what your
No,
now
now.
is. But no matter what your now is now.
Now, because that stuff can bring you further than you ever thought you would ever get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was going to go into that next because when you're married, say you were like masturbating and stuff or whatever before, I want to know your thoughts. And our thoughts aren't law, but just our thoughts on like masturbation and porn and stuff within a marriage that glorifies God. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, especially if people are like, oh, we do it together, so it's not a big deal. Or, well, we never tried that together, but I don't really know.
You're talking masturbation.
Masturbation or like watching porn, because I'm assuming porn and masturbation go together.
Some people do it without, but
Just watch porn just to like watch?
no, I'm saying masturbate without watching porn.
No, but yeah, like porn comes with masturbation.
This conversation just feels like so like rated R.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
All right, whatever. All right, continue.
Your thoughts on that? Like, after you get married, can I still masturbate? Or like, what if we watch porn together? Or can I masturbate while he's well, that's up to you. I masturbate while he's watching. I don't know. But
all right.
alone.
Here's how I feel. I'm not God. But strong opinion that no one should watch porn. Point blank, period.
Okay.
I think porn is evil.
Okay.
Full stop.
Okay.
In terms of masturbation, I'm not gonna get legalistic about it, but my mind kind of goes to like, what are you thinking about? You know, like
I'm thinking about nothing.
if you have the power to masturbate while thinking about nothing at all, more power to you. More power to you. But the way my brain works and the things that go through my mind in order that I would need in order to get me there, pleasurably, it's not helpful for our marriage.
What are you thinking about your wife? Me.
But then it's about me.
Devil's advocate here, y'all. Don't listen to me.
But then it's about me and it's not about you. And I think
when you're having sex, you are supposed to be thinking.
My
about
job
the
is
other person.
my job is thinking how can I please my wife?
Well,
and
my
make her
job
happy?
is thinking how can I please my husband and make him happy.
And when if I'm masturbating, then it's all about me and my glorification in my body. And for other people, they might think differently about this than I do. But for me and you, in terms of our marriage, it's like why. I mean, I understand like why to like just please to pleasure yourself, but my biggest end is that how can I like strengthen and firm up our marriage? And I think it can be for me such a slippery slope that it's like, okay, first I'm masturbating, okay, I'm thinking about my wife, right? Thinking about my wife, and then it's like, okay, that's not really working right now. How easy would it be to start thinking about something else?
Right. Yeah.
And then after I start thinking about something else, putting something in front of the screen.
Now I gotta see something.
Now I gotta see something. And then from there,
I need to feel somebody else.
It's like, oh, let me text somebody else just to
I'll kill you.
kind of feel. Well, that too. But it's like for me personally, and I keep on prefacing, for me personally, I don't even want to. I want to avoid the very appearance of evil, avoid the very feeling of evil. Like if I'm doing anything and it kind of tickles. You know, I'm like reading a book. There was this book that I was reading.
With the dragons?
Yeah, man. This book, what's the name of that book called? Like Iron Flame or... Iron Flame might be the sequel, but I didn't read the sequel. But I was reading this book and like there were like sexual parts of the book, but as far as the whole story goes, there were like small parts of it. But I'm like feeling hot and bothered reading this. I'm like,
about them dragons, I tell you.
I had to tell Jess, I'm like, man, I feel like I shouldn't be.
He did tell me.
I shouldn't be watching this.
Reading
this.
Yeah.
And even like for some shows, movies, as we're watching them in the house, I will literally cover my eyes while the sexual
Jonathan will fast forward. Like, we don't need to see this.
Fast
It's
forward
not
or
important to
cover
the
my eyes.
plot.
And hey, whatever the world wants to put in their stuff, have at it. Like, be great. But for me, I don't want to invite those things. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel.
But yeah, I think everybody is different. We're obviously talking for ourselves because everybody knows their own boundaries and what they can handle and what like triggers them. So if you're one of those people who it can trigger, well, I'm talking about movies. I'm not talking about porn. I'm talking about like, say you're watching Game of Thrones and like a sex scene comes up. If you know that that will trigger you, be like, oh, I'll be fine. And like you watch it and then you figure out like a week later, like, dang, why did I start watching porn again? It's because that was one of your triggers, but you thought you were strong enough to handle. So my husband is the type, and I kind of fall along in line with him too, because we sit on the same couch, we watch the same show. But that if he even feels like he's getting close to the line of a trigger, and he's like, I'm out, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is great. Some people be like, oh, that's childish, or like it's your
Hey, man,
your OD.
Call me OD, call me childish, call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
Call me whatever you want. I feel like, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay, cool. I just feel, and I said this before, it's like holiness over comfortability.
Yeah.
It's like whatever I can do to try to position myself to be closer to Jesus and further away from not where I want to be. Mm-hmm. That's what I'll do. Sometimes it feels OD. Sometimes it feels OD, but like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to talk about in sex and marriage were our expectations versus our reality. Because I feel like before you get married, you know, we always talk about like, oh, make sure you guys talk about your expectations. Like when you're about to be married, you're engaged, you're going through counseling, and like you want to kind of know up here what you're getting into if you haven't done anything down here yet, what you're getting into. After you get married, things may change a little bit because you think like, for me, I thought that like, oh, he's going to come home every day and I'm just going to be having my trench coat and I'll be like, hey, honey. I did do that a few times, but like, and one time, remember when you got the job? You know what's so funny? Again, TMI. Jonathan, I don't remember if it's like, oh, you text me you got the job or like your first day of work or your promotion or whatever. I saw that he was on his way home. So I was like, okay, let me do a little, surprise thing. And I'm trying to put on music, but I think we were using the same Spotify or something. So you're in the car and like his music is changing. His music is changing to like, that stuff that, the playlist that we were talking about.
How I switch
why is it changing?
How I switch from this podcast about like sports to like
to D'Angelo.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, what D'Angelo doing?
And I'm like, why does it keep turning off? And so like he comes home, he's like, I knew you were up to something because my music in my car kept changing. I'm like, dang it. But I thought that was gonna be it all the time on the counter, like throw the stuff off the kitchen table and blah blah blah. Those are my expectations in my head. But like when reality sets in and like you worked all day and then you got to do the cook dinner and like fold the clothes and then wash it, like things change. You don't want to open up your trench coat and be like, here's all of me. But at the same time, I have to keep in mind that like, it's kind of like what my brother and I were talking about. Like say you're at church, I didn't finish my thought, but we'll get to it. You're at church and a song's playing that you don't really like and you're like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to raise my hands. But like, this song is not about you and the song's not playing for you. The song is playing to glorify God. So you lift your hand in action to give glory to the one who deserves it, not because you don't feel like it. And I have to like switch my mind on that with sex as well for you. And it can be a slippery slope. I'm not saying, oh, I don't feel like it. And it's like, Jonathan's like, well, your body is mine. Give it to me. It's not like a scary thing because some women get afraid when they hear, oh, even if I don't feel like it, I'll have sex with my husband. They're like, oh, that sounds like abuse. It's like, that's not it. But I'm here to... What am I trying to say? My body belongs to you, and I'm not here to withhold sex whenever I don't feel like it. And we spoke about this before. If I'm only having sex when I feel like it, or Jonathan's... If I'm only having sex when I feel like it...
Sometimes I have sex when I don't feel like it.
Okay. So if I'm only... Really?
Yes, you know that. You know that.
If I'm only having sex when I feel like it, and Jonathan's only having sex when he feels like it, we may not be having very much of sex. Like it comes with some give and take on that. Yeah.
I think it's definitely doing what love requires.
Yeah.
And that my general sex drive is higher than Jess's general sex drive. Mm-hmm. Right? So for her sometimes that means having sex when she's not necessarily feeling like it really to please me. And for me, what that looks like is there are times when I want to have sex and she doesn't. And what love requires of me is allowing her that space to say, I'm not really feeling up to it without pouting or without pressuring, because you should never, ever, 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 ever pressure your significant other or anybody to have sex when they do not want to have sex.
Yeah.
So it's that give and take. Sometimes I want it, and she will be like, you know what, let's do it. And part of her loving me is not making me feel bad. Like, all right, here, damn, like you like here, sure, you got it, whatever. But it's like really like loving me. And then part of it is me sometimes seeing her like really after she had a long day, and even though that's what I want, like it's okay. Like I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And like that mutual dying to self is what keeps our marriage going. And I think that's what keeps sex alive, because just like Jess said, like, and she stated it perfectly, that if you only have sex when both of you want to at the same time at equal amounts, you're going to have less and less sex as time goes on.
Yeah.
Because those times aren't going to match up, and the less you have sex, the less likely you are to want to continue to have sex.
Yeah. Honestly, the more that we have sex, the more I want to. But if it goes like 3-4 days, I'm like, you know what, I'm chilling. But if like we're doing, I'm like, hey, you know what we did last night? Let's do it again.
Let's keep a good thing going.
That was fun. You try to please each other. That's why in marriage, it's like, I'm pleasing you, you're pleasing me. But if you're pleasing yourself and he's pleasing himself, there's going to be a lot less connection and pleasing 100%. Going on for each other. And that's when people end up unhappy. But there's something that you said that I feel like most people put that on a man. Like, oh, don't ever pressure your spouse to have sex. That's for women too, you know? And I know that we always think like, oh, well, men always want it. So like when I want it, I know he's down. But like, and it does kind of pan out that way because my husband has never denied me. Not that I can think of right now. Because whenever I do want it, he'll be like, all right, cool. Because at the end of the day, you're still a man. But if you really didn't want to.
I mean, if I really didn't want to, I don't think you would.
I wouldn't be like, take these pants off, boy. And I just like start touching like, as women as well, we should not pressure. We can suggest and even try to do a little tinty to see if anything's going to change forms. But if it don't change form, man's is tired, had a long day. And leave him alone.
Yeah, and I think it's really just that doing what love requires. Because sometimes loving your spouse is letting them sleep.
Yeah.
Letting them sleep. If they wanted to do something else, sometimes letting them do that. Sometimes loving your spouse is having sex with them when you don't really feel like it.
You know what? Excuse me, y'all. I keep burping. I have a question for you on having sex with your spouse, your husband or your wife, when you don't feel like it. What if the wife is in a position where, or the husband, whatever, where the other significant other is just not doing their part? They're giving bum vibes, like they're not helping with the kids, they're not cleaning, they're not doing anything, and at the end of the day, they're still like, hey, I'm looking good in that, let's take it out. Like,
I feel like that warrants a conversation for sure.
But nothing changes. Technically, I'm still required to do what love requires. But you're not loving, you're not doing your part. But marriage is not, oh, I do my part if he does his. But I can see how it's much harder.
You can't use sex as a weapon.
Right. I do have that, like withholding sex.
Withholding sex as a weapon is wrong. Period. Yes. Point blank. It's a need of your partner. For like to women, it's a need of your husband. To men, it's a need of your wife. Just those amounts might differ, but it is their need as your spouse. So you can't withhold that as a weapon to make them do other things that you want them to do, because that's manipulation.
Yeah. And keyword, we said as a weapon, not if you're like postpartum and you can't, or you just had surgery. We're talking about what, because I know people are like, well, when I was, no, as a weapon. Like, you're perfectly capable.
Or as a negotiation tool.
Oh, yeah. I have a negotiation.
Well, I'll give you this if you do that on the list.
Yeah, that's not very sexy.
It's not very sexy, one, and it's wrong, two.
Yeah, but I'm trying to feel like, as a woman, I'm trying to think, because I know, like, I don't know, I don't have kids, but I can imagine you're with the two kids, you're overstimulated as heck, your husband gets home, you're making dinner, there's throw up on your shirt, you're exhausted, you haven't taken a shower in 2 days, and at the end of the day, but also you haven't had sex in maybe like 6 days or a week or I don't know, however long, and your husband just like, no, he doesn't start with the, he just like, hey. Maybe he puts on music and he's like, puts on your first dance song or whatever. He's like, hey, she's like, babe, I just can't. I'm exhausted. Like, and that just goes on for days.
Well, then one thing I heard somewhere, I forget where, it's if you're going to deny then you have to say when.
Like, babe,
Then you should say when.
But give me 4 months and I'm back at you. When the kids move out for college, I'm back. Like,
yeah, the things about it, like, you can only control like what you can control. So, you know, telling when giving another time is an option that you could do
and
if you're really
honoring it.
and honoring it and being a person of your word. You know, you want to have
I
integrity.
could be better at that. The thing is,
it's okay. It's all right. I'm not gonna like throw you out there.
No, I throw myself out there. That's one thing I'm gonna do is to put myself on blast for no reason. But the thing is, sometimes when I'm like, "Hey man, tomorrow," I swear I'm about to be about tomorrow, but then tomorrow comes and I'm like, "Dang, tomorrow was just as bad as yesterday." I'm just not. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, and it's something to work on. But
Yeah.
you know, trying to honor as best as you can to honor your promises, so that we're people of integrity. That, you know, your yes means your yes, and your no means no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a tough one when it feels like one spouse is taking advantage of the other spouse. But I think that comes with, you know, need for communication. One, and if you have a good spouse, hopefully they're receptive, and not with. And I'm gonna say communication. I don't mean with anger.
Yeah.
Where it's like, honestly, I'm just really having a tough time. I feel
A soft voice turns away wrath, or what is it?
soft words turn away wrath, and harsh words stir up anger.
Yeah.
And really just leveling, you know, like, I'm really having a tough time right now. Just all the work that I'm doing around the house, like, it really doesn't make me feel sexy. I'm not blaming you for anything, but right now my plate is like, it's really hard for me to kind of get in that mood. And then see what your spouse says at that point, and see what you guys can do to kind of bring things back in line. But sometimes it will get away from just the two of you, and you can't like figure it out. And sometimes you might need to talk to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be afraid to talk to even a professional or like a pastor. I don't know. Maybe somebody.
Yes.
Somebody qualified. Not just like your homegirl. Like, girl, I don't know what to do. Like,
No, like a third party that doesn't have a vested interest in either of you. Like, not like your boy's friend or your girl's friend.
Yeah. So as far as communication, because communication about sex is great, like, or how much we're having it or whatever, but I feel like communication in sex, maybe not while you're doing it or whatever floats your boat, but I think communication about how the sex is going when you're married is also very important, because a lot of times when you do have sex after you get married, especially if you weren't doing it before, or if it changes, or if new things are introduced, you broke a leg or you have kids and sex feels different, I feel like communicating how to make it better with each other, or what I like or what you don't like, is great practice. Because if you're having sex with your partner and you don't like it, or you don't like something they're doing, I feel like that's when a possibility of an open gate can open in your head, and it's like, so-and-so probably would have been better, or my ex was so much better, he did it the way I liked, or whatever. But I feel like in marriage, you cannot be afraid to say, hey, let's try this, or like, hey, I don't like, and it's not easy sometimes, and it can be a little awkward, but I feel like being receptive to what your partner wants and needs is really important without taking it to heart. And I feel like, I don't want to say it's a guy thing, but I feel like, maybe it's a girl thing too, but
I think it could be either thing, honestly.
Maybe, because it's like, dang, I'm not doing it well good, or like, no, you're not. So here's what you can do, like,
so here's something that I'll mention in relation to that. That's another like thing to horrify, you know, sex before marriage. I mean, there's grace for everything, because we're the poster children. We're not, I mean, whatever. We made the mistake.
Yeah. We're not no poster children for that.
I know. I didn't want to say we're the poster children.
That sounds crazy.
That does sound crazy.
That's crazy.
But comparison is the thief of joy, right? So when you are experiencing sex for the first time with your partner, you both have nothing to compare anything to, and you're discovering things together, right? So like, you don't really have a list of likes and not likes. You're just figuring it all out together. When you get married, and you have, with people that have sexual pasts, there's a library of things that they've each experienced, where like, if one person's not doing it the way that they like it, it can be like, dang, like you said, so and so did this, that, and that.
You're maybe not saying it out loud, but
you're saying it in your brain,
and it's building. Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I think like you said, communication is just so important. And I would say not to like have the first time communicating it be while you're having sex.
Yeah.
That could be a little well,
I feel like
or right after you had sex.
Yeah.
It could be like a little later. It's like, hey, next time
hey, so for tonight, like make it sound exciting.
Yeah. Or like next time we have sex, I was wondering if we could try XYZ in order to make it feel better for me. And I think that's, at least for me, that's when I would be most receptive to it. Then during, you could talk about it, but I wouldn't want to be like, hey, like, the person under the cover. It's like, hey,
yeah, stop. I don't
stop,
like that.
Give him the pat, pat on the back.
You
like,
can come up now.
Enough.
Wait, no, but I kind of agree, but not fully, because like, say I was doing something and it was hurting you.
Well, if something's hurting,
I would want to know.
If something's hurting, then
if you tell me after, I'm actually gonna be more embarrassed. Like you were pretending you liked that and you didn't. That's more embarrassing.
Hurting is different.
Hurting is different
because like it's like something suboptimal. Where it's like, all right, we really need to like reshape the whole conception of this thing. But yeah, I think having those conversations is really important because a lot of times we can build resentment to people when we didn't give them an opportunity to change anything.
Yeah.
It's like man, they're always looking out for themselves. They're not thinking about me.
They have no idea.
And they have no idea what you're thinking. But once you let them know, it's like, hey, if you just did this, it would really work a lot better for me. And that, like the person would be like, oh snap, I had no idea. And then do that thing that you're asking for, and then your experience is just so much better.
Yeah, I think with those conversations, I think it's really important to not make it about you. Because like, say if Jonathan was like, hey, next time you blah, 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 can you blah, blah, and it's not, this isn't your time to be like, yeah, well, you know what? You're not that good at blah, like that's not the time because he's not doing it.
Defensive.
Yeah, they're not doing it to hurt your feelings. It's like, hey, I want this to be a great, experience for both of us. And I'm figuring out myself too. I'm like, I don't think I like that much. And if you want to really smooth it over, you can be like, hey, what else? Is there anything I can do to make it better for you or like whatever? So make it a safe conversation.
Yeah. And I think conversations like that are why, and just like letting God just influence our marriage just even more and more, or why we're having, the best sex now that we've probably ever had.
Yeah. And I think this might sound weird, but I had to do some prayer. I was like, God, help my loins to be jumping a little bit more. Cause I want the jump. This is crazy. But God already knows. He knows. I'm like, God, look, I need that same jump that I had before. I need that jump back. But I think it's important to pray about your sex life as well. Pray about it.
100%.
Because God cares about every detail. It's not like I want every detail except for sex. That's all you.
God made it.
He made it. And somebody said the other day, like, God made specific body parts on our body that are specifically only for sex. They do nothing else.
Only for pleasure.
Only for pleasure. They do nothing else. They're specifically for pleasure. So he wants you to enjoy sex. So you can talk to him about it. Be specific if you need to. Like, talk to your partner. Talk to Jesus. Like, just communication in sex about sex is very important. Do some check-ins, too.
This is about the most graphic I ever think I've talked about sex in an open forum.
Well, hey, welcome to the Between the Walls podcast.
Ew!
Between the Walls! Between the Walls for real. Dang, I wish I said that earlier. Okay.
It's terrible.
That's too good.
I'm out.
Okay, I have a last thing. We talked about withholding sex. So it doesn't get old, keeping it spicy. I feel like we're too young in our marriage to talk about how to keep... People always ask, like, how do you keep it spicy? I'm like, we're 2 years in. If we're already struggling with keeping it spicy, I think we have issues. But, I guess it does happen for some people. Especially if you had, like, a kid right away. But whatever.
I'm out on this topic.
Okay, no, I have one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Stop being prude.
I'm not being prude. I'm just...
My mom... His parents do listen to it
going.
together. My parents don't. That's why I'm more turned up.
Just say what you want to say.
Are you uncomfortable?
No, I'm just ready to be done.
Are you uncomfortable?
No, I'm ready to be done.
You don't want to talk to me anymore?
I'd love to talk to you, but just not in front of this mic any longer.
I will respect my husband's wishes. Last thing I want to talk about was sex boundaries. Do you have anything to say about sex boundaries?
Sex boundaries?
Because they say what the marriage bed is undefiled or whatever. So, like, what does that mean to you?
Man, don't bring any other person into your bedroom. I already said I think porn is bad. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know, the whole BDSM, like the smacking people around thing.
Oh yeah,
that's just a no for me. That's a no for me. Hey man, different shows for different folks, but like
yeah.
I feel like that's a nah in general. Like abusing your partner.
Don't be calling me no names, like bad names.
Yeah, that's
you're my whore tonight. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm out.
No, that just sounds like stuff people get from porn, and that's like how you can get. I think start getting down a path into a place where you don't want to be.
Yeah,
I think you want it to be a loving experience with you and your wife. Yeah, that's what I think. It should be love. Like you're showing them love, and you're making love, as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so don't be doing nothing crazy. I mean, but hey, do you? If your spirit.
Yeah, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do in the bedroom.
If it's happy with your spirit and God don't convict you.
Except for bringing somebody else in.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like,
don't do that.
If you don't feel convicted about that, I'm still here to tell you
don't do
it's
that.
wrong.
Don't do that. Don't watch porn. Both of those are bad.
Yeah, it's bad. I guess that's really it.
Beating your wife is bad. Sorry.
No. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. No.
I'm out on it. Those three things I'm out on. Anything else you want to do? I guess it's up to you.
Yeah. I guess I had something else to say, but I'm gonna wrap it up because my husband's clamming up. You see the way he's sitting now?
No. I was sitting like this the entire
like
time.
This? Oh, now it just feels more.
Say what you want to say.
I mean, it's nothing crazy. I was just gonna say, sex is such a crazy thing because, like, when sex is over, I feel it's not shame. So like, when sex is over, it's not a shame that I feel, but I'm like, who was that? I'm like, ew. Like sometimes Jonathan will be like, hey man, last night though. I'm like, no. We're not allowed to talk about what happened last night because that was actually disgusting. Like, it's not disgusting, but I'm like, I'm someone's daughter. Like, how could you do those things? Or like, how could I do that to you? Like, it's just like, sex is actually insane. Like, I know it's beautiful and God loves sex within the confines of marriage. And I think we should be doing all the things to each other. Okay, it is getting weird now, but.
It's so weird.
But when it's done, I'm like, ugh. Like sometimes I'm like, don't look at me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, what? Who is she?
No, that's shame. We cast out shame.
We do, but it's also like
we cast out
those are
shame.
not things that I would do if I was not doing those things. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Okay, I think we can end it because.
What's wrong with my wife, guys? We will not be talking about sex for another.
We're not mature enough.
Next season, it's. You know what's
so
funny?
You have kids, it's a different that we can talk about.
You know what's so funny? Not on our podcast, but we recorded 2 podcasts. We went up to
record with my brother.
We recorded with your brother, and on their podcast, which will be far from now, we're talking about sex again.
Listen,
so that will be the next sex talk you hear from us, and then that will be probably the last one for a good period
a while.
of time.
Yeah, I don't think we need to really revisit sex until after we have kids because I know it changes then.
Yeah.
But yeah, first of all, talking about sex with my brother sitting across the couch from me, I'm like, this shouldn't be happening. But it happened, and we're done.
Hey, man. Hey, man.
That's when I was like, this is weird. That was weird. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Between the Walls podcast. We're coming up on the season finale.
Yeah, we're getting close to the season finale. So after episode 10, we're going to take a little break, maybe a 5 or 6 week break. And after that, we'll be back.
Yeah. But we still have a few more episodes left, so don't worry. We're not going to be anywhere. But you can always catch us on Instagram at Between the Walls Pod. I know some people were a little upset because I said we were going live on Instagram. They're like, what's the big deal with Instagram? We don't have Instagram. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
I know, like, it's okay. You don't have to be a part of everything. If you can't, then you can't. We'll always be back, and we will be doing lives over here as well. But we just couldn't do it last time because
we'll do some on both.
Yeah, because we just didn't have access at the time, but we do now. So
and Instagram's like way easier to do it on.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else.
Don't forget to follow us on, listen to us on Spotify or
Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. You
can listen to us in the car. You don't have to see our face if you don't want to. You can listen to our voices.
All
we'll
right.
see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.